let's start implementing those recommendations now.
Yes, I agree. Now, Jack, you've been very immersed in this subject. You went on Joe Rogan. You were personally abused by Tommy Robinson after that. You've also been very scathing about Jordan Peterson. You believe he's been platforming him regularly, getting millions of views, which he has, undeniably, and that he's been effectively enhancing Robinson's reputation in the process. And you said the impact of his cheerleading shouldn't be understated. He certainly cut a slightly different tone, I think, with me earlier than he has in his interviews with Robinson. And I kind of get where he's coming from to a degree. Did you change any of your view about Jordan's role in this, having heard him tonight, or not?
I think not. I think he's not prepared to say anything negative about Tommy Robinson. I think that's very telling.
Well, he was almost saying it's not relevant to the whistleblowing about the rape gang scandal. I kind of get that argument, is that you can have a view about the reason he's in prison.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with that. You can have a view about his criminal past, being a football hooligan, beating up a policeman, mortgage fraud, passport stuff, all that stuff. You can have all these views about him, but you can also perhaps separate that from his relentless campaigning about what has turned out to be a scandal on the scale he kept saying it was.
But Jordan's not prepared to tackle Tommy's Islamophobia. It's not that he's done things in the past that are bad and they're unconnected to his anti-Islamic agenda. The reason Tommy was upset with me and started this little hate campaign of his against me was because I just quoted what he was saying on Twitter. I'll give the quote again because I paraphrased it last time. To be crystal clear, Tommy Robinson wrote at the end of last year, "Palestine is a shithole full of inbred Islamist parasites and terrorists." Now, everyone who hears those words knows they're wrong. Tommy himself went back after I said this and just doubled down, said it's true. It's full of terrorists and parasites.
Yeah, new teeth. It's obviously veneer is too big.
Now, Jordan's responsible for this mess that's going on now. And I don't say that lightly because I've spoken to Jordan for hours. And in terms of philosophy of religion, we get along well. We have good conversations. But I think he should be ashamed of himself because in the UK, we know who Tommy Robinson is. In the US, he has been Tommy Robinson's passport to gaining influence with Elon Musk, gaining influence with all of Peterson's followers. Last year, Peterson's videos online, they amassed over 9 million views on his output on Tommy Robinson. 3 hours of conversation. None of that dangerous rhetoric comes up at all. This is a former Harvard researcher. This is someone who worked at the University of Toronto. This is someone who claims to have had a keen interest in Tommy Robinson for years. Why was no question asked about that?
So let me ask you a difficult question. I hear what you say, and I watched the interviews, and they were certainly, he didn't go into all that background stuff. Is there an argument, though, that if you're Jordan Peterson and you feel, as Elon Musk clearly does, genuinely incensed by the scale of the scandal over here, and you know that notwithstanding all this stuff, that you believe the bigger picture is what Robinson has been saying about the scandal, and you know he comes from Luton, where a lot of this stuff was also happening and so on. Is there a valid argument to say, actually, you can divorce the two things? The rest of it is part of the legacy of Tommy Robinson, and it's why I have a big problem with him, and why Nigel Farage won't even deal with him, which should say a lot, I think, to people in America. But that actually, on this one issue, he has been relentless, like a dog with a bone, very passionate, pretty well informed, it turned out. If you listen to the whole interview with Paxman back in 2011, almost everything he said has been borne out by events. Should we have listened more to what he said about the scandal and been less dismissive, as I've been certainly guilty of him just as a person?
I think there's something to be said about it. I think, in short, that Tommy has shed light on it. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's interesting to look at what him and Jordan Peterson aren't interested in shedding light on. They're only interested in sexual violence when it comes to Muslims against non-Muslims. But they're quite happy to stand on a stage next to Russell Brand and the like. There's no, it's very much criticize them, but not the other. Who's on my team? Who plays into my anti-immigration rhetoric? I think that tells us a lot about what they really care about.
Russell Brand has been accused of things, but he hasn't been convicted of any crimes.